What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Griffin and today I'm going to be talking about the two biggest, most ridiculous, hairy, audacious goals that I have for the next 3 years. Let's dive in. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about those two major, massive goals that I have for the next 3 years, as well as some of the thoughts and reasonings behind both sharing them and having the goals themselves. So first things first, the reason that I'm sharing these goals is not to say that I'm some sort of awesome athlete, but it's to paint the context behind the content of where this channel is going moving forward. Plus, with that context in mind, you can kind of get a more behind the scenes process-oriented view of the training, of the lifestyle, of everything that I'm doing leading up to building up to these goals, and then hopefully tease out some of those patterns, habits, processes that I'm going to use and apply to your own training, your own life, and chase your own goals. The important thing to remember is that it's not about the goals themselves. It's not about accomplishing it or achieving it. That can be a helpful thing, that can be a powerful motivator, but really it's about the athlete and the person that you want to become in the future. So having that 3-year vision, who do you want to be? What are the actions? What are the patterns? What are the habits that you want to have in your life? Having that big goal, that vision for the future can point your ship in the right direction. You can see if your daily actions align with that long-term vision. If they don't, you can make those minor tweaks, minor changes along the way. Alright, so first major goal that I have for the next 3 years, first big one is to qualify for Ironman Kona, Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. This is a really, really big one for me. It's something that has been on my list for the last several years. And the second one is to qualify for the Olympic marathon trials. So both of these things I'm going to break down in further detail of what I think it will take in a future video, but those are the two major ones. Qualifying for Ironman Kona and qualifying for the Olympic marathon trials. So this whole series is going to be called The Quest to Qualify. And having those two major goals for the next 3 years, trying to point my ship in the right direction, trying to see what it takes for me to adjust my training to reach that next level, to push myself to that next level, and then again hopefully having some sort of takeaway, some sort of little nuggets, little habits that you guys can pick up through this kind of trial by fire, this experiment that I'm going to put myself through. Alright, so the thinking behind the 3-year goal is a couple different things. The first is that right now, we don't really know what this next year is going to look like, so having a year-long goal is kind of up in the air. There's a lot of things, like I have a lot of races scheduled, and I'll go over my race schedule for the rest of the year in another video, but I think it's important to realize that these things might not happen. So having that 3-year goal where hopefully by then things have returned to somewhat of normalcy, we can kind of maybe plan on that and predict that a little bit with a little bit more accuracy. Obviously things are never going to be the same, but maybe they'll go back to being normal and we'll be able to have these races, have these big events with a little bit more regularity. And then the second reason for having this 3-year timeline is that it gives you some wiggle room. It gives you some room to make some mistakes. It gives you some room to try different things, and maybe it doesn't go all right and you can kind of review and reflect and see what's working, what's not working, without having to rush the process. Because when we rush the process, that's when things like overuse, injury, illness really tend to crop up. So having a 3-year timeline kind of allows you to make some of those mistakes without it being that big of a deal, which I think is really important to allow ourselves that grace, that flexibility to try new things, to integrate different systems into our training and see what works, because all of this is really just kind of like one big experiment and we're just trying to figure out what works for us. So that's the direction that we're headed, not only just in my own training, but kind of with this channel. My goal for that is to show you guys as much as I can about building that process, the highs and the lows and everything in between, so that you guys can kind of come along with me on that journey. But before we wrap things up, I would love to know what your goals are, what your 3-year vision is. Where do you see yourself as an athlete? What are those big things that you want to accomplish in the next 3 years? And hopefully we can be on that journey together. See you next time.